It's a bottle that gets a lot of love, but also a lot of hate. Today we're gonna find out if it's worth the hunt. Let's dive into Henry McKenna 10-year. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So today we're diving into Henry McKenna 10-year, a single barrel product with a 10-year age statement from Heaven Hill Distillery. By all accounts, from what I can tell, people kind of either love or hate this bottle, mostly because there is a lot of hype around this bottle and it has become much more difficult to find, especially in the last 3 to 4 years. Part of that is because this has won lots of awards, and I think it was back in like 2019 that it won double gold at the San Francisco Spirit Awards. I think Fred Minnick had rated it really highly as well. So just like so many people started looking for this bottle. You used to be able to find it kind of a lot like Eagle Rare out there for a 10-year product at like 30 bucks. Now I think MSRP on this bad boy is around 50 bucks. You're probably going to pay maybe closer to 60 or 70 in a lot of cases, maybe upwards of that. And so we're looking at a bottle that people used to cherish and love because it was cheap and available, and at that price probably pretty good. But now the question is it really worth all the hype? Some people seem to think it really is worth the hype and it's one of those great bottles. Some are more wary and think that it's not that great, especially because it's a single barrel product and you can get some ones that are a bit of a miss. And people theorize that when it's won those awards and gotten all those accolades, it's because they brought out, the honey barrels, the super nice, awesome, really great single barrels that they knew were special. And the average Henry McKenna single barrel is just not going to be able to live up to that. Who knows if that's true? I am super excited to dive into this bottle and review it for you guys. Let's take a quick look at the stats here. So mash bill on this is the same as Elijah Craig, which is 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. This is also a bottled in bond product, so it's at least 4 years old, clearly much older than that with the 10-year age statement. Distilled all during the same season, which makes sense for a single barrel, and it is at 100 proof. All right, without further ado, let's just dive in and see how good the whiskey is. And again, this is a single barrel product, so your results may vary from what I'm about to get. Before we dive in, I do want to say, amazing to see the community continue to grow. We're looking forward to an awesome 2023, and we're off to a strong start. We'd love to have you join us by subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And while you're at it, hit that like button too. Really helps get the content out to more people. All right, let's dive in on the nose. Henry McKenna 10. It's very caramely. Caramel and honey and vanilla. I've let this sit now probably for a good 15-20 minutes as well. Yeah, good oak. Slight cherry. Yeah, really nice oak actually. The oak has got a little bit of a spiciness to it, a barrel characteristic coming through. There is a slight ethanol kick here. Not overwhelming, but it's there. Maybe the slightest bit of like a creamy peanut butter. But honestly, what I get the most is that caramel, that vanilla, that honey, and that nice oak. It's kind of very traditional, very quintessential, and has the presence of age. So a pretty good start, nothing spectacular, not super complex, but giving me a nice, well-rounded feel. Let's dive in on the palate. Cheers, everybody. Very, very consistent from nose to palate. So I got a lot of brown sugar, a lot of caramel, good amount of vanilla, good dose of oak, especially rises up toward the back end of the palate. Touch of leather on the back end, so a little bit drying, but not bad at all there. Maybe a little bit of tobacco, but it is just honey, vanilla, caramel all the way through. Let's go in for a second sip, see if we can pick out some more flavors and get some more complexity. Cheers. Interesting. A lot of it stayed the same. That was a little bit drier of a sip. So again, I'm getting like, got more leather there, more oak, just a woody, leathery presence, especially toward the back end. There's still that vanilla, that honey, that caramel. I got maybe a touch of like peanut or peanut shell, so just something, again, in that drier category for me. I would say that first sip had more of that like caramel sweetness balancing that out. That one went a little bit drier. So let's go in for a third sip now, evaluate the finish, and just think about this whiskey as a whole. All right, cheers everybody. Okay, yeah. Got more spice on that sip, so overall more wood spice, more cinnamon. Got a little bit layer of cinnamon and maybe the slightest touch of cherry on that as well. Finish for me is a lot of that oak, a little bit of leather, a little bit of that vanilla sticking around, and maybe the slightest touch of caramel as well. So a couple of sweet elements, but I'm feeling a lot of that spice and oak on the palate and sort of sticking around. Just a little bit of sweetness to help balance that out. But overall, I would definitely say the age here comes through, especially on the finish, and I do feel like this is a kind of a drying experience for me, actually. The mouthfeel is quite nice on this. The 100 proof is nice. It is well-rounded in terms of the flavors it's offering, and the proof, I feel like the proof gives it a nice whole feel in the mouth, but I think the finish is a little bit drying. Just wanted to check on this nose again. The nose is nice. The nose reminds me a lot of an Elijah Craig barrel proof that I have with a B522. Pretty similar to that, with sort of that brown sugar caramel, a little bit of spice to it. Really, really good. The palate's good too. The palate carries through a lot of those flavors. I like it better. I like the first sip the best, where I got more of that caramel and vanilla sweetness. And I did feel like over time it was getting a little bit drying, and that oak is sort of building up on my palate, and the tannins a little bit. So if I had a complaint about it, it would definitely be that. One more thing I would say here is just that it's not a super complex whiskey. It's pretty straightforward actually with its flavors. For me, I have no problem with that. If the flavors are things that I like, just give them to me in full force. And I think this gives you really nice flavors and has a well-rounded feel, but it's not super complex. In terms of whether or not I think this is worth the hunt, honestly, I'd put this in that $50 to $60 range. I think it's kind of like an Eagle Rare, where it's its own unique thing. It's got a nice age statement. I'd pay up to about that, but I wouldn't pay much more than that. I don't think that this is so special. I don't think it's a $100 bottle, that's for sure. I think it's a solid single barrel product, but it's not knocking my socks off enough to make me be like, oh, I have to go find this and I have to pay the $70 immediately to have a backup of this. Now, I'll happily wait until I maybe see it closer to MSRP or trade another bottle for it. Well, those are my full thoughts, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the review. Let me know in the comments below if you have tried Henry McKenna 10 year, if you've tried multiple, had different single barrels. Do they vary? How much do they vary? Would love to hear your experience with it, since this is my first time trying it. Want to know more about this bottle, and everybody out there, what your experience with it has been. Until I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.